Dear friends, I welcome you to my channel. This is Taras Berezovets. Today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Today we will talk about the 16th summit of BRICS countries that has opened in the capital of Tatarstan, Kazan, as well as the fact that the leadership of Brazil, India, and South Africa has opposed further expansion of this organization. While Putin has long wanted and already proclaimed that BRICS will become the organization of the Global South, an anti-American bloc. All participating countries, including China, have also opposed this. Putin is currently unable to create an anti-NATO coalition. Meanwhile, Poland is closing the Russian consulate in Poznan due to an attempted sabotage, another scandal in Russian-Polish relations. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Modi offered himself as a mediator for the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine civil war. He has been making these proposals regularly over the past few months. Today, Ukrainian drones attacked, targeting the sacred 3 Russian distilleries. Dmitry Medvedev was immediately attacked. He unexpectedly remained silent in this situation, although it would have been logical to expect his response. Clearly, he has not yet come out of his stupor. The European Union is discussing the possible deployment of its troops to Ukraine following reports that North Korea is sending its military to participate in the war on the side of Russia. Additionally, Newsweek reported today that North Korea may have sent pilots to participate in the war against Ukraine, while South Korea plans to send representatives of its intelligence services as well as various types of weapons to Ukraine in response to the DPRK's decision to support Russia. Akim Chanin's sister called Ukraine and South Korea uncivilized dogs that were raised by the USA. That's how it is. And finally, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu stated that it is time to consider the deployment of non-nuclear deterrent forces on the territory of Ukraine. Friends, more on all of this later. So, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland, Radosław Sikorski, announced that the Russian consulate operating in the city of Poznan will be closed. Diplomats working in this diplomatic mission will be considered undesirable persons on the territory of the Republic of Poland. In other words, they have been declared persona non grata. Non grata will not be expelled due to actions incompatible with activities in the status of a diplomatic worker. The reason for this is scandalous, as Sikorski stated. It is an attempted sabotage inspired by the activities of foreign intelligence. MedPolsha did not provide any further details. If you read this message between the lines, it becomes obvious that Russian diplomats, or rather Russian spies, operating under the cover of the consulate in Poznan, were caught, apparently interacting with saboteurs. How this happened has not yet been reported. Well, it is likely that all of this refers to personal meetings, either the transfer of weapons, or even worse, explosives. Perhaps, well, in a word, they got caught. They were caught red-handed, and thus they will be expelled. It is clear that Masha Zakar has already promised a retaliatory, painful response. Well, another Polish consulate will be closed. There are only 3 left operating, in St. Petersburg, Kaliningrad, and Irkutsk, and one of them will be closed. And Russia, for now I emphasize, still has embassies in Warsaw and consulates in Gdansk and Krakow as long as they remain. The Ministry of Poland has also demanded an end to the hybrid war against Poland and called on NATO allies to take further decisive actions. There is no doubt that they will. Russian diplomats have been expelled from everywhere like mangy dogs, even from all countries, including friendly Austria and Hungary. Well, other countries have already expelled them all. Practically, the Czech Republic ceased the activities of the Russian diplomatic mission several years ago. And the Baltic and Scandinavian countries, in general, they have been kicked out from wherever possible. But this scandal obviously stands out from the general context. I will repeat once again that it concerns direct involvement in carrying out sabotage acts, possibly even those already conducted. It will be interesting to learn more details later from representatives of the Polish Special Services, and I am sure they will provide them. Meanwhile, the 16th BRICS summit has opened in Kazan, which Putin envisioned as the creation of an anti-NATO, anti-American bloc. However, all these attempts have so far ended in failure, as evidenced by the initial results. From the amusing moment, the heads of state who arrived, the inexperienced president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, agreed to taste Russian bread and the local Tatar delicacy with the wonderful name chak-chak. Meanwhile, the more experienced Chinese comrade Xi Jinping feigned taking a piece from the caraway, while Chak refused, and Narendra Modi even folded his hands in prayerful gratitude, also declining the Russian treat. How can one not recall the instances when many foreign representatives, particularly Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew and all representatives of the Constantinople Patriarchate, categorically refused the Russian tea with the novice that Patriarch Kirill tried to offer them? These frames went down in history. It was in 2018 when Ukraine received the tomos from the Patriarch in Bartholomew. In general, as they say, history teaches many things. Meanwhile, attempts to forge an anti-American organization dominated by Russia and China have failed. This was stated by Bloomberg, Indian officials from the delegation accompanying Prime Minister Modi. India, Brazil, and South Africa have also categorically opposed any further expansion of BRICS, which they joined last year. 6 countries have applied, and at least 24 more have expressed interest, including terrorist states such as Afghanistan and Myanmar. Naturally, China, Brazil, South Africa, and India are unlikely to want to be in the same club with dubious state outcasts. The United Abkhaz Emirates, which joined BRICS in 2023, completely rejected attempts to present membership in the organization as a sign that the global South is in opposition to the West. This was also reported by a Bloomberg source. The United Arab Emirates stated that they are proud of their close relationships with Western countries, especially with the USA. Russia has also tried to involve representatives from BRICS countries in the creation of a kind of bloc for its own reserve currency in order to put an end to the dollar's dominance, as Putin stated back in Sochi 2022. He accused the West of irresponsible macroeconomic policies and tried to convince his BRICS colleagues to take independent action. However, all opposed these attempts, including China. Moreover, the meeting of the finance ministers and heads of central banks of the BRICS countries set for Moscow was ignored. China, India, and South Africa sent low-ranking officials, at most at the level of a deputy minister. Well, in general, another setback befell the great leader with the involvement of Vladimir. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Modi once again offered himself as a mediator in the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine war. He stated that he fully supports the swift restoration of peace and stability. Problems, Modi stated, must be resolved peacefully. At the same time, he promised that India would provide any kind of support to achieve an end to the war. The holding of the BRICS summit was conceived by the Kremlin as a key event of 2024. It takes place at the end. We see the end of the year, with 2 months remaining until the new year 2025. This is a key event for the Kremlin to show that Putin is not in isolation. However, representatives from other countries will clearly disagree with this statement, as each of them addresses their own problems, primarily of an economic nature. It is also expected that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, representatives from 33 countries, including Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, will participate in the BRICS summit. However, many leaders, such as Brazilian President Lula da Silva, did not make it to Kazan. The official reason is that he sustained a blunt injury to the back of his head in the shower. It seems that he may have simply bought a certificate from the MSCC in Rio de Janeiro. Well, I think it doesn't cost much. There should have been any reason not to fly to the BRICS summit. Indeed, Serbian President Vučić also did not attend. Well, and a number of other leaders, in particular the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. Meanwhile, while Putin's guests, some tried the bread and some refused it, Ukrainian drones attacked 3 distilleries at once. A tough day for Dmitry Medvedev. If he comes out of his binge today, as they say, his day won't start with coffee. Although perhaps with coffee he won't have anything else to drink, since 3 distilleries were attacked today. 2 in the Tula region, the Yefremov distillery and the distillery in the village of Lushkovsky in the Suvorov district. Another distillery in the city of Raskazovo, Tambov region, was also attacked, where an explosion occurred at the Biokim facility, followed by a fire. Well, as they say, it's a tough day. The Ukrainian forces have taken aim at the sacred, and I think that Dmitry Medvedev's revenge will be terrible. More curses will spew from the pages of his writings. However, I believe we will read them in the near future. Meanwhile, voices in Europe are calling for the deployment of troops to Ukraine after information from South Korean and Ukrainian intelligence indicated that North Korea is redeploying its contingent to participate in the war on the side of the Russian Federation. In particular, in an interview with Politico, Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis stated that we are still lagging behind in responding to the escalation of Macron's idea. He talks about sending NATO troops to Ukraine. Landsbergis stated that Macron's ideas should be reconsidered, better late than never. Additionally, a number of other statements were made besides his. In particular, the French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu stated that it is necessary to consider the issue of deploying non-nuclear deterrent forces on the territory of Ukraine. This was reported by the French television channel TF1. Zelensky's victory plan is the beginning of a political path on which we must take responsibility for helping Ukraine in the long term, he stated. Additionally, he stated that France is considering the issue of sending troops to Ukraine, and this is still under debate. However, what is happening in North Korea, according to the country's Minister of Foreign Affairs, is a turning point. He stated that the relations and interdependence with Pyongyang as well as with Tehran internationalize this in a certain sphere of security. He said that he is waiting for confirmation from, the South Korean and Ukrainian special services regarding the transfer of North Korean military personnel to Russian territory. We are in the process of documentation. This is a rather serious fact, and we cannot comment on it without evidence. It is also reported that South Korea has sent representatives from its intelligence to provide the relevant evidence to NATO member countries. South Korea is mulling sending its military and intelligence personnel to Ukraine to participate on the side of Ukraine. This was reported by Ryonhap, citing a government source. In Seoul, there is consideration of sending a mission of military scouts to Ukraine to analyze North Korean combat tactics, primarily those of the North Korean Special Forces, of which 1,500 are planned to be deployed. They will also participate in the interrogation of North Korean prisoners when they arrive. There is no doubt that this will happen. South Korea is also considering the possibility of direct military supplies, which I had warned about in principle, as it is one of the largest arms producers in the world. South Korea is set to provide Ukraine with new types of weapons, with a priority, as Ryunha writes, being given to defensive rather than offensive types of armaments. These can primarily include artillery fire systems, ammunition for them, and mines, as well as mine clearance systems. In short, South Korea is one of the largest defense industry hubs in the world. They indeed produce in huge quantities, including supplying their weaponry to many allies under contracts. And European countries such as France and Poland supply the United States military with vast amounts of resources, which is why they really have something to offer. Well, if we put in some effort, there's another piece of information. The publication Newsweek, an American magazine, reports that according to South Korean intelligence, North Korea has sent its pilots who are capable of operating Russian combat aircraft. According to South Korean intelligence, the DPRK has sent a fighter pilot to Vladivostok, and this happened even before October 8th. The presence of North Korean pilots in Russia may indicate that they will be trained to fly Russian combat aircraft. It is reported that North Korea has at least 900 combat aircraft in its arsenal, although some of them are outdated machines. But mainly it is about aircraft from the MiG and Su families. This information has only just emerged today. It is obviously worth submitting for further confirmation. So far, this is only information referencing South Korean intelligence. Ukrainian intelligence has not provided such data yet, I emphasize. Yet. The sister of North Korean dictator Kim Yo Jong stated that South Korea and Ukraine are two peas in a pod, and remind her of ill-mannered dogs raised by the United States. This speech is reported by the Korean Central News Agency. Judging by the behavior of Seoul and Kyiv, Kim Yo Jong stated, they are fidgeting, begging, and daring to utter irreversible, absurd nonsense regarding a state that possesses nuclear weapons, rather than being identical, like two peas in a pod. It is necessary to name the common traits inherent in ill-mannered dogs raised by the United States. The statement mentions Kim Yo Jong, who holds the position of Deputy Director of the Central Committee of the Workers, Party of Korea. Here she is. To name dogs after South Korean and Ukrainian women, such as this would be taken as if Ukraine called them in a manner swine. In comparison, let's say, to yourself, but it shows irritation. And if you are irritated, if you are angry, then obviously you are wrong. You feel that you are doing something Wrong. Let's continue, friends, to track all key events. Subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment on the broadcast, and don't forget to recommend the video. Friends, we are familiar. Take care of yourselves. Thank you to all the partners, sponsors of the channel, friends, for your invaluable support. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the armed forces of Ukraine. Glory to the Ukrainian Special Forces. Major Taras Berezovets. Goodbye.